Welcome to the World Cup Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the west coast of the U.S., Josh Lander, joined by my man Dan Tracy across the pond. Dan, we're looking at day 6 of the World Cup today. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm really good. Another frenetic day and evening of World Cup action that we've had when we last spoke. There's going to be more to come, so let's get straight stuck into it. I know Belgium squeaked past Canada last night or yesterday morning, wherever you are, but it's 3 points, isn't it? So I guess you're happy there, but it's more for us to discuss now. So let's get going.
Yeah, let's get right into it. We'll talk about Belgium, who's going to take on Morocco on Sunday, and my lack of faith in them right now as they looked awful against Davies and the Canadian side. But as we mentioned, this is day 6. We've got all of these days already covered for you guys, so make sure you continue to follow along, like and subscribe. Dan's putting up articles at a crazy, frenetic pace at this point. As we said, we're not sleeping until the World Cup is over. This is what it's all about. So make sure to continue to come back. We also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where Dan has his great articles up all the time. Odds Finder tool is on there as well. If you go ahead and get into Dan's articles, there's a great tool in there to make sure you're getting the best juice on all those bets you can make on this World Cup. As I mentioned, Dan, we're on day 6. We're going to do the same sort of style here where the game at 11 a.m. Pacific time, the last game to play each day, is usually the better game that we've seen so far. That's the case in this day as well, where Argentina 0-1. Argentina is taking on 1-0 Mexico there as they tied the Polish. This is a huge game, obviously, Dan. I will be fully transparent. I already sprinkled a little bit on Mexico to win this group at plus 350 because I thought, why not? I don't trust the Saudis, and I certainly don't trust the Argentinians. That means this game is very, very important to me. So how would you break this one down?
Well, it's a must-win game for Argentina. When you look at Group C, it's almost upside down, isn't it? You know, you've got Saudi Arabia at the top, Argentina at the bottom. Me, you, many other people would have predicted Argentina at the top and vice versa. So it's a fascinating game in terms of what needs to happen for both teams. Mexico off the mark, of course, but they can't just rest on 1 point. They need to win from somewhere. They would have probably looked at that game from a few days ago and thought, is that 2 points dropped? I know they saved a penalty, Ochoa did from Lewandowski, so they shouldn't be too harsh with themselves by gaining a point. But with the landscape of Group C being it is now, a win has to come from somewhere. Unfortunately, I feel that they are probably going to be meeting Argentina at the wrong time, and the fact that because Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia, they're going to be something of a wounded animal, something with more of a point to prove than even before. So if you're going to be looking at the full-time result, Argentina at minus 175, sometimes you just got to sort of go for it, really. It might be a little bit on the skinny side, but I think personally, as I say, Argentina have got so much to prove now, they can't afford 2 defeats in a row. So I feel that they're going to win, but I feel the more value comes from goal scorers. So we saw Lautaro Martinez get the ball in the net on Tuesday. The goals was then ruled off because of offside. So I plucked for him to score in the anytime market at plus 175. And of course, you can't forget Lionel Messi. Not much value at plus 105 anytime, but he scored first on Tuesday. You can get that again at plus 275.
Yeah, and there's some places out here in the U.S. that you can get slightly better than that as well.
Wow.
Lionel to score first is plus 320.
Well, take it.
Out here. Yeah, so I feel good about taking that as well. The reason I picked Mexico, obviously I was considering this game, right? So part of my game theory here is Mexico to be able to draw this game. Plus 295 for that. I don't hate it. And I do see the demise of the Argentinians in this particular cup. I know we talked about them being a nice sort of minus 200 to maybe parlay to come out of the group originally and to parlay that with another, sort of favorite that you feel comfortable with, say like a France, if you will. Obviously they have a big game against Denmark that they'll have to win. But either way, I think if you want to get ahead of what's going to happen today in some of those markets, you still can in terms of you can still get Argentina to win this group if you feel good about them. I'm going the other way because I trust that Mexican defense, and I really liked what I saw. And this is something we talked about when we were talking about you having a bit more eyes on Poland, me having a bit more eyes on Mexico, them just the relevancy to the teams we care about in the U.S. and England. And Mexico, obviously, I regard them highly because they always play the U.S. very, very hard and are always the biggest competition for us in CONCACAF. But, the thing to believe in here that I think we saw in the game, in the first game against Poland was they definitely, in my opinion, dominated that match. I don't know if it's domination, but I think that they were the better side. I think that if you had told me they would have won that game after seeing the way that it played out. I would have believed that. The penalty kick, obviously notwithstanding, and Ochoa does what Ochoa does, so I love that as well. Same thing for Courtois. I think we're seeing the benefits of having some of the top keepers in the world right now, and I feel much better about Mexico's chances with Ochoa, who plays like a complete madman in these tournaments. So I'm in this game. I am going to hit the draw because I need that to happen, and so my game theory has already dictated that I do that, and I'd really rather not hedge because there's nothing to hedge here. It's like minus 170 for Argentina doesn't hedge me anything if they win and Mexico loses the group. That's not really helping me out here. So I'm going to continue moving forward with my Mexico prediction and feel strongly about them. But let's move on to the next game that I did briefly touch on, Dan, which is that France-Denmark game. And these teams have a very, very interesting history of late as well, especially right as Denmark was able to beat France in a couple of tournaments leading into this World Cup. So what do you make of this one and the way that the French side really looked incredible after giving up that first goal to Australia?
Well, do you know what? The first, 10 minutes when Australia scored, I thought, champion's curse. What we sort of touched on, and I thought, this is happening, it's unfolding, more chaos. But once Giroud got into the groove and Mbappe found his feet at last, France just absolutely blew him away. Couple that with Denmark looking quite blunt. Well, they were blunt against Tunisia. They didn't, offer really much at all. And I thought, actually, do you know what? All the kind of possibilities of France stuttering and Denmark finishing top of Group D, I don't see it now. I know we kind of leaned into the Nations League matches, as you said, but now I've kind of seen both those two teams in action. I feel France are going to be quite comfortable in this game, to the point where if you back them on their own to win, minus 138, I wouldn't touch that. I'd probably go for France and both teams not to score, which is the equivalent of a France win and a clean sheet, at about plus 165. Might be a bit more over that side of the pond, but I feel that because Denmark looks so blunt and France just blew Australia away, as I said, I feel they're going to get maximum points in this one, and I don't think they're going to concede either. They've got a few injury doubts in defence, but France's sort of talent pool goes deeper and deeper. So even with the odd injury, they're going to be okay, in my opinion. So yeah, I think France win, clean sheet, job done, plus 162.
Ooh. So you're saying clean sheet for France?
Yes, so France to win and a clean sheet, you get plus 160 or plus 165.
I misunderstood originally, because if you were thinking there was going to be no goals in this game, I was going to go, that's ballsy, mate. France is going to be putting it on you. I think a 1 or 2-0 specific score, if you wanted to go that route as well. I mean, 3 goals sounds preposterous, because even if they get that second goal, France does, and go up 2-0 at some point in this game, I don't think that they feel the need to score a third one, and I don't think Denmark necessarily even comes out of their shell that much, to be honest. I don't know that they're capable of that. They're going to basically be relying on a quick counter with maybe 2 forwards being able to go forward, Christian Eriksen and somebody else up top for them, trying to finish off a counter, and that's the best that they have, hoping that France has a lapse in judgment to that effect, right? But I think France got the sort of jitters out of the way.
Yeah.
I think some of the new guys that they weren't necessarily hoping, they were hoping to have Conte, Benzema, and the like, right? And Pogba, not to mention. They were hoping to have those 3 of, I don't know, let's say the top 20 players in the world right there that they would love to have had in this tournament. They come out a little bit sloppy, and then everything just sort of settles down for them, because they realize that if we just play in the other team's third and keep it there, we're capable of possessing in the entirety of the game in that part of the field, and Denmark is going to be sitting there, to your point. So I think this is a pretty, I'm not going to say easy game. Nothing's easy here, but I think this is somewhat predictable, more so than a normal match, because of the way that these two teams are going to play. And nothing that we saw in the first match for either of these teams makes you feel like it's going to change. So with that in mind, France has never scored 2, or at least in the last 4 times they played, haven't scored more than 2 goals against Denmark. I like a 2-0 game here specifically, and that gets you all the way up to about plus 365 if you want to bet that exact score in this one, and I feel pretty good about that as well. So France to win for sure. I think to your point, there's not going to be many more surprises for the French in the group stages. Moving on to the next match, Dan, that's the one right before this one, if you will. This is a really great day of matches we were talking about. This is going to be fun as hell. Those first 2 matches are incredible, as all 4 of those teams have like pretty high aspirations for this tournament. Now you've got Poland, Saudi Arabia, the 1-0 Saudis, who have provided us with a lot of entertainment via their fans on site as well, who have just been drunkenly celebrating since that win. They are now playing Poland in this one on Saturday. So where do we look at this one? The Polish, I wasn't super impressed with them in that first match, but obviously, I still think that you would argue they have a better side in this one.
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed, and you're right, they do have the better side on paper, but football matches aren't played on paper, as Argentina learnt on Tuesday. So Saudi Arabia, they've done half the job in terms of qualifying for the round of 16. They are almost there, so they don't have to win this game. really they've got to do is avoid defeat and then pick up a point in the final game against Denmark. So I've opted for draw or Saudi Arabia in the double chance market. So you get 2 picks out of the 3, plus 100. I feel Saudi Arabia are going to be pumped for this game. After getting their result, they're not going to just going to kind of think, okay, well, we've surprised the world, we've shocked the world, we made a story. Now it's to build on that story. So I wouldn't go as bold as backing him to win, but that extra element of insurance, especially against a Poland team that looked a little flat. Yes, they had that penalty chance to score, and even with Robert Lewandowski, we would have expected more against Mexico earlier in the week, and I was a bit disappointed by them, really. So I kind of flipped the coin and gone to Saudi Arabia. It's a great story of the World Cup. Let's embrace it. So yeah, I'm going to go with Saudi Arabia to avoid defeat in the double chance market, plus 100.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of that. I can see either way, you want to be able to bet on Saudi not to lose, and I would agree with that, because at the very, I mean, they withheld a storm and an avalanche from Argentina at various points in that game. You could argue that there was some luck involved, but I don't see Poland pressing the way that you would have expected them to maybe press a little bit more in that Mexico game. To your point, Dan, and Lewandowski didn't look the same sort of strong player that he does on the ball or even coming back to the ball or anything. So I would agree with that. I'll be fully honest, I was not able to watch the Saudi game live. I definitely watched most of the highlights, but I wasn't waking up at 2 a.m. for that one. I didn't expect to wake up to a 2-1 defeat for Argentina, I'll be honest. But either way, yeah, I'm happy to bet that Saudi does not lose, and I would follow you on that one because I don't feel much too strongly about any other of the opportunities in this one. So finishing off the day with the first game that we'll be playing that day, which is Tunisia and Australia. Interesting lines in this one, as you can get Tunisia to win this outright plus 115. Australia is plus 270, right? So if you're getting plus money on either of these teams to win the game, do you feel Tunisia can score on Australia or vice versa? I mean, I lean Tunisia a bit in terms of the offense that I would depend upon.
Yeah, it's a tough one in terms of where this is going to go. This could be a bit of a sleeper game, actually. The fact that, as you say, in the full-time market, the three-way handicap, everything's over plus. So you've got an opportunity to make decent money on whatever you pick. So the fact that Tunisia as the favourites is still plus 110, sometimes just take the plus 110. You know what I mean? It's not the best price, but it's a bit of a toss of a coin. And you might sometimes feel that because of the toss of a coin, like we said with United States, Wales, when you go for the bigger team because they've got that little bit more value. But look at Australia and they run out of puff within 20 minutes. And I just don't see how they're going to really trouble Tunisia. Tunisia did well to hold Denmark. Were it not for offside calls, they would have won that game as well. So I feel there's goals in this game. I wouldn't go as far as sort of backing over 2.5, but I certainly feel there's going to be at least a goal. And I feel Tunisia are going to come out on top. So a narrow win. You can get plus 600 on the 1-0 Tunisia win. That's probably a good starting point as well. But if you just want to keep this one simple and go for a winner, I'll go Tunisia at plus 110.
I'm with that. I mean, I think everything we're saying too sort of leans to the under a bit, but there's not as much value there either as we see. Under 2.5 goals is minus 155. If you want to bet under 1.5, I mean the odds jump all the way up to plus 200, 2-1 on your money for there to only be 1 goal or less in this game. That feels as though it has potential as well. That might be something that I feel a little bit better about than obviously picking a winner in this one. But the fact that I do feel Tunisia is the stronger side, and you still get plus odds on them to win, there's value right there. Let's not overthink it too much as well, to your point. So that's all the time we have in this one, Dan. We are going to continue along each and every day of this World Cup with each day's set of matches, as we have done for these last two as well. Next up will be, I believe, we'll be on the 7th day already by the time we're recording next, Dan. So plenty to look at. Make sure you check out Dan's articles on thelines.com as well. Everything we're talking about here and some more for you guys. And until we see you next, happy betting.